boys and girls. This YouTube is brought to you by Portillo's Hot Dogs. I would show you the hot dog I got, but I ate that already, so I can't show it to you. This is just a Coke. But they got good hot dogs. So you have to trust me. All right, I wanted to talk more about this changing the way we read because of what's going on. Things are awarenesses that are coming around. So times are changing with tarot card readings. Part 2. I did find the Art of War tarot deck. I didn't buy it, but I did find out that it is considered on the package. It says it's an oracle deck. Times of War, Art of War by Sun Tzu, and which I always thought would be a good thing to have if you could tie it in with the tarot. And I knew you could some way, and because Sun Tzu had 7 or 13 elements to the Art of War. So anytime you have a situation you're trying to accomplish, and you divide it up into sections like that, it's something to look into. And that's a classic Art of War. And you could use it for other things besides war. Any type of thing you're trying to accomplish. And that deck, 52 cards, it comes with a 128-page book, I think. Small little booklet to show you how to use the cards. And that's all I know about it right now. But it is defined as it does say it's an oracle deck, which means it finds answers for you. And so that was kind of neat to see. I wanted to show some other, I did mention before, the Think Pack by Machalko. This never really took off as far as I know. I don't see it in any stores. But it's a deck of cards for ideas too, the same way. And it works with 7 placements, 7 elements. So it's called Scamper, which I mentioned in my first video here. So that was a great idea. And I had to get the deck when I saw it because of that. I knew there's a correlation there. And I thought, well, I got to get this and see what that is and how it works. Now that we understand more about the mind with the creative thinking, we can see that really the strategy of the whole thing is not in the cards. It's in the application, which is what I've always said anyway. So the card spread, or the way that they're laid out on the table, the amount of elements you're looking into, and having a system in place that those elements would be good to look into no matter what the question is. So basic strategies in place. Another example of this, and I bought this deck a long time ago for the same reason. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is from a book. There's a book. I have the book somewhere too. It's here. But I saw this deck of cards with it, and I thought, well, I got to get this. This was another store I worked at. And it's a deck of cards that it just says a 50-card deck. So it doesn't say it's in an oracle deck or anything like that. I don't even know if you can still get this deck, but it goes into those seven habits. And these cards are used for that. What's good about this, so you could actually find answers with these kind of things. And the reason it's so helpful is because those are random cards. Cards are a deck of randomness. You don't know what the card's you're gonna throw over. I mean, if I were to take a deck of tarot cards and have a question, and I know a card spread, if I wanted to go through the deck and decide, well, this card, I think this card would be good for, in my question, this card fits in that position over here. And this card over here, I want to use for this position. If I were to go through the deck and select those cards, I wouldn't learn anything because it's already what's in my mind. And that would defeat the whole purpose of having a deck of cards. The cards are randomly placed there. Randomly placed to force you to see associations that you didn't see before. And that's what a tarot deck does. So the whole card spread, like I've said before, is the strategy of the whole thing. What you're looking into. The randomness of the cards makes you come up with ideas you didn't think of before. The power of that randomness. Whether it's a deck of cards like this, a deck of cards like this, or any kind of any tarot deck. It's the randomness of ideas that you get placed in there. So really, you could come up with a new deck of cards, a new deck of tarot cards, or something like tarot cards. If you wanted to just take let's say the Celtic cross and look at those 10 positions and what they signify, what they mean, what they represent, what you're looking into, and have a deck of cards that would be helpful to those positions in different ways, which would sort of be reversing the whole process, because the way we see it is usually the other way around, where the spread isn't that important as much as the cards are. But I think that the new thinking is gonna really start to come around, because now these new decks, this creative thinking deck and critical thinking deck and storytelling deck and Sun Tzu Art of War deck. That's four new decks that are and they're doing the same thing that a tarot deck does. Now, I think that this next 10 years, you're going to see these types of decks coming out with some very effective results, because now they're coming out with these decks because they know how this process works. But with tarot cards, we didn't know how the process worked until I came out with my books. But now we know how it works. And you're going to find some very effective applications. You're going to really find good results because of it, I think. There's really something here to look into. And if I was a card reader, I think that's why I really think it's important to understand why this works. Because other people who were not really familiar with tarot cards are going to be doing the same thing with other decks, like the creative thinking deck. The problem tarot has is it's just locked in with this magical, supernatural realm of is supposed to be coming out of these cards. And it's because it's centuries old. There's no magic in those cards. I don't think so, anyway. But it's a mindset so strong with that, a mysterious deck of cards, that they put all this learning process into it. And I think the reason they do that is because what they're doing is they're looking at, they don't have a grasp on why it works. So what we do is we try to find things that will help us understand it better, and we add stuff to it, more stuff to it, astrological signs or symbolism, or all sorts of different things. And we created this whole elaborate study on tarot cards. When I first got into tarot cards, it's like a tarot card. It's almost like what they're coming out now with the Art of War deck, and probably with these other decks. A little booklet comes with the deck, and you read it and you apply it and you use it, and that's what it was, and it worked, So I mean, I really don't think it's necessary. I think you can get overwhelmed, and I think you can get confused by all the elaborate applications and study that's gone into the tarot. I got a book on the Golden Dawn here. They actually talk about it's either that or the Brotherhood of Light. One of those two books. They talk about musical notes to the tarot assigned to different cards, what note this would be, and that. who cares? You know, I doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't do anything to help you. And if you start to read, you'll start to see that this stuff doesn't help you. Now, I don't know when, I'm trying to remember when angel cards came out. I think it was in the 90s, early 90s. And they were big for a while. A lot of readers were using their angel cards. Not most of them, but I'd say maybe 25% of the readers that I knew were using these new cards called angel cards. And they had a couple different versions of angel cards. But it faded away. Tarot is rock solid. It still hasn't found anything to take its place yet. But I think the more we understand the process, you're going to see the tarot looked at in a new light because of these other card decks coming out. And now with an understanding of how this all works, successful readings, very successful readings being done with those decks. And I think you're going to start to see tarot cards tarot readers will start to employ this type of thinking to their reading with the tarot cards. And if they don't, I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to have, not now, but 10 years, maybe 20 years. You're going to start to have people look and say, well, that tarot, that's outdated information. I got to go with this new idea and this new deck of cards that really gets to it, really helps me find answers. That deck isn't even out yet. But the application on why this works is out. So I think the sooner you understand that application, the better. Now you can understand that application for books on creative thinking, and you can, or on the internet, looking into creative thinking and mind mapping, which I talk about in Genius of the Tarot. But if you really want to know how to apply it with tarot cards, so far my work is the only work out there that talks about it. And in Genius, I just go into it vaguely with one chapter on mind mapping and talking about the tarot being a creative thinking technique. Essential tarot, radical tarot, and bare bones tarot. I really go into it in those 3 books in a lot of detail, along with everything else about the tarot. But I'd have to say that those 3 really talk about it most. And it's all different wording, each one, but it does talk about it. You probably learn something a little bit different on all 3 of those books. But you will understand it if reading any one of those books. So I think it's good to look at it and say, okay, well, we're just turn things around a little bit. Concentrate or focus on the elements that you're looking into. What we call it position meanings. And then understand how these random tarot cards placed into those positions are there to spark ideas. And any deck you want to use, any tarot deck you want to use is going to work. If you can understand, if it generates ideas to you because you've assigned meanings to those cards, or just because the pictures do, or any way that they gives you sparks ideas to you, it's effective. It works. Because you'll get, with that application, you will get ideas you didn't have before. You get new ideas. And that's what it is. So I really like to see these new decks coming out. When I saw these, I was surprised to see there was that many. It's good to see, though, because people are starting to see the value of this technique as a way of finding ideas that weren't there before. Very innovative ways of seeing something that you would have never thought of before. This works very well for all sorts of different things. It has a lot of power to it. It expands our mind. It opens it up. As soon as you add a randomness into an element of a question, and you try to make a comparison association where it's, how is this useful to me? Right away, you're just jumping right over to the right brain, right side of the mind, right brain thinking. and you use an imagination, and you'll be surprised what you come up with. You don't have to study symbolism of each card and all this. You don't have to do that. Anything that gives you ideas is going to work. And I still say this doesn't, there's still a lot of mystery. It's not like, I'm not like saying that okay, we're taking the mystery out of the tarot. We are taking the mystery out of the tarot by understanding that it is a conceptual blending, creative thinking technique, which is what I've always said. But the thing is, it just shows you how the mind works and how to use it. We still cannot explain psychic awareness. But one thing I do know is the more you use that right brain thinking, the more you open up the door to that psychic awareness side. So there's more chance of you getting premonitions by doing tarot card readings, because that's the side of the mind that stuff's going to come from. So sometimes a reading can spark intuitive insight that has nothing to do with this system. And sometimes you won't have any premonitions, but you still find ideas you didn't ever thought of before. So when you see how this really works, you realize that if this is the way what's happening here, if I have a 10-card spread on the table, like a Celtic cross, and position number 6 really stands out on me, that might be all that I really need to know. Everything else might seem okay. Yeah, okay. But the important part of that whole reading might just be one card. Bottom line is the objective is to find new ideas on any one of those aspects of your question. Because when you break a question apart into sections like that, and you change one of those elements from your current thinking, when you put that all back together, you have something different now, because you change one thing. So really all you need to find is really something significant in one card, in one position. You might have a real good reading there. You might change somebody's life with that. So it's a real breakthrough. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad to see we have these new cards coming out. I think this is going to take off this time. Like I said, angel cards didn't do it, but they didn't understand the system. These people making these new cards, they understand the system, and they're putting together a way of thinking, still mimics the tarot. They might not really even know the tarot, but they're doing this. They might be very familiar with the tarot. They might be well aware that it's the same thing. And either way, the more we understand something, the better we're going to get at it. So this process that a tarot reader does is going to become more effective now, because people understand how it works, and they're going to be introducing systems that are going to be very effective. And what the tarot reader used to call divination will just be now looked at as a thinking technique. There's no mystery in it now. The mind is capable of doing this, and we can intentionally apply this with a randomness. And randomness is a very good way to do that, is with a deck of cards. Sun Tzu was a good way to do it, The Art of War, because he has 13 chapters on how to proceed with war, which could be used in a lot of other ways. Trying to accomplish a goal. The 7 habits of highly effective people could be 7 aspects instead of 13. Once you have those aspects in place, then it's just a matter of finding answers for those aspects. And we do that by finding ideas we didn't think of before, by placing a random tarot or placing a random card of some type into those positions on the table. That's the magic. Any randomness will work. Doesn't even have to be a deck of cards. but a deck of cards really works very, very well with that, which is why they're coming out with these decks of cards now. Somebody gave me this box, a friend of ours, Yvonne. She gave it to me for tarot, as a tarot deck. And it's got actual keys on there that have been placed and covered with a texture. So I thought that was kind of nice. And I'm not going to use this box for tarot cards, but I'm going to make this. I talked about Leo Burnett using an idea box on his table, where he just, if he came up with an idea, he would just write it on a piece of paper. It could be a word. It could be something he saw in a magazine. He cut it out, put it in, throw it in there. Small stuff, you know. And just a box of different things that he has no use for at this particular time, but it caught his eye. And he was stumped on something. He would open up his idea box and he'd grab one of those. He doesn't know what he's going to get. He pulls it out. Might be a word. And he would make an association between that word and what he's looking into. A randomness again. So, Yvonne, your box is my idea box now. I just got to fill it up. So the randomness is where we get ideas. So I would suggest looking into creative thinking techniques. Again, keep in mind, I've said it lots of times before, conceptual blending. Look into that. That's the most basic creative thinking technique we know of. And we do it all the time and we don't even know we're doing it. And that's what a tarot card is using. That's what a tarot reading is using. A very powerful way of finding answers we didn't see before. And that's what these new decks that are coming out with are using too. So I would suggest at least taking a peek at these new decks in some way. Or if you don't want to bother with the decks, then I would say at least look into creative thinking techniques and conceptual blending and see how they're connected with the tarot. Want to read about it in my work, Bare Bones Tarot, and the Essential Tarot probably covers it the most. And then Radical Tarot would cover it as well, but Radical Tarot is a smaller book. Tomorrow is May 9th, our Zoom meeting, 12 o'clock Chicago time. Come on by, say hello. Go to tarotmaps.com. Down below, there'll be a link. And just go to Tarot Gatherings in there. And you'll see that in the menu. And just click right into the Zoom meeting. There's no waiting room or anything like that. You just come right into the meeting. Come by, say hi, or stick around for the whole thing. It doesn't make any difference. Come on by, have a good time. And got any questions about tarot? There's a group of us in there. More than happy to talk about it. Take care. Keep throwing cards. We'll talk soon.